Quiet on set, no set tripping, pimping. What is going on, guys? Welcome back to Swish Life Garage with the boy KT. And today I got a Del Sol video for you guys. I know some of you guys been waiting for this. But now, if you guys have seen some of my previous videos, we did leave off of fixing the interior on the Del Sol. All the panels have been installed, and as well, most recently I did install the S2000 seats, which the interior is looking very nice. It's not completely finished, but you know, it's at a point on where if you wanted to drive it, you can. But now I need to go ahead and fix the mechanical issues that it is experiencing. First thing I want to go ahead and do is drop the transmission. I know that needs some work on it itself. If I remember correctly, I think second or third gear would grind. And as well, the clutch wasn't feeling too good, and also I could hear one of the bearings, you know, kind of messed up. So really, for this video I want to show you guys how to take down a manual transmission on a Honda. Even though you may not have a Del Sol, you may have a Civic, a CRX, a Accord, a Prelude, whatever you may have, pretty much the same steps that I'm going to be taking is the steps that you're going to be taking as well. It may be a different configuration or whatever, but you know, basically the same type of parts need to be uninstalled off of your car in order to free up the transmission and to drop it down. So really, without taking any more time, let's go ahead and get right into it. So here we have the Del Sol, and I got an electric power washer right here. I'm just going to clean up the engine bay, try to lift it up. I do have a jack here. See if there's any dirt underneath. Might have to clean it up. Just makes it a bit easier when working with the car. Keeps your hands cleaner and able to see bolts and stuff if they may be covered by grease and stuff. But let's get right to it. Alright guys, so here she is, just been sitting, pretty dirty. Time to start fixing it up. I do want to work on the engine transmission to get this thing going. As you guys have seen as well, I did power wash the engine bay, so it's looking a lot better in here, a lot nicer. Got rid of that grease and dirt. Everything visually is looking a lot nicer. I want to go ahead and take out the transmission. I do know that needs to come down. I need to pretty much inspect everything. I did do a compression test. I didn't record it, unfortunately, but all of these cylinders were pretty good. I don't remember exactly how much PSI it was. I do know it was around either 180 or 190, something like that. So I do believe the compression is good, but also it may be bumped up due to carbon that may be on the pistons, increasing that compression. But overall, as long as you have consistent numbers, it's looking pretty good for the motor. The motor does already have, I don't remember exactly, I know it's around about 200,000 miles on it. You know, these Hondas really do last. If anything, a lot of people, you know, they may get rid of the car due to the timing belt snapping because they never changed it. It's the original timing belt. Maybe they overheat their car, something happens with the radiator, overheat it, and then the head warps and you need to replace the gasket. It's looking good for the motor as far as compression. So next thing I want to go ahead and do is take down the transmission. Gonna do a little bit of the engine as well, but I want to fully take down the transmission and at least have the engine sitting by itself, so if I need to do any work, you know, everything's out of the way. So this is going to be a little bit of a process. Going to get right into it and just take it one step at a time. So I'm going to show you guys how to exactly take down the transmission, manual transmission on a Honda. Maybe you might not have the exact engine configuration, what have you, but for the most part it's going to be pretty similar. Okay, so the car does have the e-brake on. I'm just going to break the lug nuts loose.
Chuki got the sauce, bitch.
Alright, so I took off the wheel, I took off the center cap so I could get access to the CV axle nut onto there. Drop it down on its weight just so the tire won't spin when I try to take it off here with the breaker bar. And so that's what I'm gonna go ahead and do, because if you try to do this in the air, you can if you have like a pretty strong impact, or if someone holds on the brake and you try to break it loose that way. But I do have an impact, but I really don't want to just bring it out for these two nuts. You know, I'm just working by myself right now. So the Del Sol is jacked up. I got it on jack stands. I'm going to take off this lower splash shield, and as well I'm most likely going to take off the bumper just to make it a little closer to the car, and just overall a bit cleaner, easier to access in and out since it is jacked up off of the floor. Alright, so now the bumper and the lower splash guard is all taken off. I'm going to start working on the suspension, undoing that to get the CV axles out. So I'm going to show you guys how to do that. Firstly, what I'm going to start off doing is taking out the cotter pins that are in the castle nut. I don't know if you guys are able to see it. It should have one in the bottom here as well. So just going to take those out and then get the nuts taken off, and then we'll separate the lower control arm and the power steering rack. So the CV axle is completely out. As you guys saw, I did take off the cotter pin to the lower ball joint over here, and then took off the castle nut. Usually the power steering or the outer tie rods will have a cotter pin as well, but this one did not, so I just took off the castle nut. Then just took off the lower suspension fork here with just the 14, and then the nut and the bolt here. And then that just slides, you could get it right out. And then just broke it loose, the ball joints, with a pickle fork. If you're trying to save the boots, there is a different way of taking them off, but you can see everything's pretty much trashed for the most part. And even this CV axle is pretty trashed. You can see a big rip in there. And so yeah, everything looks pretty old. But I'm gonna go ahead and do the other side as well and get the CV axle out. I did manage to take out the CV axles. They're not completely all the way out because I still have to drain the transmission, but at least you guys see what to do for the suspension and to separate everything. Now if you're not trying to ruin the ball joints with a pickle fork, you can just put on the nut, the castle nut reverse on the outer tie rod, and then hit it with a hammer, or use a jack to pry up on it, and then it'll pop out by itself so you don't ruin the boot. And then as well for the lower ball joint, I would just do the castle nut as well, reverse, and then jack it up with the jack. The suspension is going to come up, and then at a certain point it's going to stop, and the ball joint will break loose because it's trying to go further up than the lower suspension can, than the lower control arm. But hopefully that made a little bit of sense for you guys. Alright, so now the next thing I'm going to do is drain the transmission from the drain bolt right here. Just take a breaker bar and break it loose. Alright, now so the oil is out of the transmission, and so now I could pull out the CV axles without any oil dripping out. Usually just use the pickle fork to just pry it in between and just take it right out. Now sometimes they could be a bit tough to get out, especially if they haven't been taken out in quite a while, so you may need to use different type of like crowbars and stuff, what have you.
Chuki got the sauce, bitch.
Alright, so the CV axles are completely out. Here we do have the passenger side. This one is completely ripped, and so it just needs to be replaced. You can obviously tell these are old. You hear that? So that's no good. This one is ripped, and then looks like some debris or something from the roadway had just winded up on itself. Completely trash. So these are no good. You gotta get some different axles. Now what I want to do is take off the linkage for the transmission. Okay, so here we have the shift linkage. I have a 10mm you need to take out, and sometimes you need to move the shift linkage so you can slide the boot back, but there is like a little cover on it. You just gotta slide it over, just kind of like a snap ring type thing, so you guys can see. And there's a pin right here that you gotta get a punch for and a hammer. Just gotta find the right size punch. This seems to be it. And then I'm gonna just hammer it out. Alright, so the pin came out, but I'm not sure where it went, to be quite honest. I'll probably find it later, but yeah, so it may be a little bit of a pain, but as long as you have a pretty good heavy hammer, you know, it comes out pretty easy for the most part. So now the linkage, this side should just slide off. There it goes right there. Now just need to take off the linkage from the bolt here. I know previous I did say it was 10mm, but it's actually 12mm. Alright, another thing to take off on here is the exhaust. So going to take off these two nuts right here, and then there's two nuts on this other side that reinforces the header. Alright, so now the header is taken off from the cat and from the support. Now just need to take off the three nuts here that hold it on. Sometimes they're pretty tight just because of the rust and everything, but let's see how they go. You might want to use WD-40 or what have you, but we'll just see. Alright, now the header is out the way. Going to take the bracket off for the transmission to the engine bracket, and then the inspection plate right here as well. You do have like a 12mm, and then I believe like two 10s up here, but over here you got two 12s and I believe a 14.
Trappy on the track.
Alright, now the other thing to do while you're down here is take off these three bolts. You're going to take these two off, 1, 2, and then a third one on the actual engine block. And then for the most part down here we're pretty good to go. Alright, so I did forget, got to take off this mount as well. There's two 14mm bolts right here, and this is on the passenger side towards the front of the transmission, lower front. Alright, so now the suspension and everything underneath is finished. I did put a jack and a piece of wood down here underneath the oil pan to give it some support, because whenever I take off the rear mount, well, the rear mount bracket and the side mount here for the transmission, it's only going to be basically hanging on one main mount, which is over here by the timing cover. There is another one for the AC, which is underneath, just like this other one as well. But you know, they don't really support much. So now that everything underneath and the suspension has been loosened up, everything that needs to be taken off has been taken off. Need to work on the top section. First thing I'm going to do is take off the intake here.
Chuki got the sauce, bitch.
Alright, so the intake is out of the way. There it is right there. Also took off the starter. You do have the 12mm nut on there, which does attach the power cord right there. And then you got your negative, which is just a spade connector, and then two 14s that hold it in. You for sure got to take it out because one of the bolts does hold on to the engine. Now the next thing I'm going to do is disconnect the actual clutch line, remove it from this fitting right here, and then remove the two 10s that attach it onto a bracket. Do have a drip pan down there to catch the brake fluid, and then pretty much after that just gotta take off this mount and take off the bolts that attach it to the bell housing. So that's what's next. Alright, as you guys could tell, here is the transmission, completely off, super greasy, but there it is in all its glory. And here it is, the engine bay. Like I said, it got a jack stand underneath supporting up the engine, so you know it's not sagging too much. It is slightly leaning, but it's perfectly fine the way it is right now. So next thing I got to do is take off the clutch and the flywheel. Now here on the crank I do have a 17mm socket with a breaker bar on it, so the engine will not spin when I take off the flywheel and the clutch. Alright, so took down the flywheel and the clutch. Like I said before, here is the transmission, nice and greasy for you guys, just like you like it. And here is the flywheel. I've seen some better days, but not too bad. You can still get this resurfaced. And here's the clutch as well, still has some life on it, on the actual clutch pad. But of course we're going to be changing that out, might as well. Don't want to reuse the old clutch. Here's the actual clutch housing, or the pressure plate. There you guys have it right there. So the clutch is pretty much trash, and the flywheel, that could still be used, so that's pretty good. As you guys could see, I put all my bolts back where they belong on the car, on the transmission. And the reason why I do that is just so I don't forget where all the bolts belong at. Right here you guys can see the rear main seal leaking as usual. Now, I mean, it's a pretty easy seal to change out, but a lot of people don't want to pay someone just to drop the transmission, just to change a $20 seal. So it is pretty pricey just to change it out from a consumer perspective. But there you guys have it. That is how to drop a manual transmission out of a Honda. Doesn't exactly have to be a Del Sol, but of course, you know, the same type of steps, procedures that you're going to take will be taken on yours, just maybe a different configuration. Well, right guys, I believe I gave you pretty clear instructions and a pretty clear video on what to do in order to drop your transmission as well. Hopefully you guys gained a little bit of knowledge and it may help you out in the near future. Now, to be quite honest, that engine is very dirty. I'm not sure where it may be leaking from, or if it's just from the CV boots. Whenever they rip open, you know, all that grease gets to slinging everywhere, and it just makes it a hassle to work on, and your hands are completely dirty. But so I really want to clean up the engine, clean up the transmission, clean the engine bay, install some new parts, fix some of the leaks, install some new CV axles. So I really have a lot of things on my list I need to take care of for this Del Sol. So it may take some time in order to get the money for the parts, get the parts delivered to me. And so I just ask that you guys be patient here with me as you follow along. Now, on my previous video, I told you guys there is going to be a giveaway when we reach 5,000 subscribers. So let me tell you guys exactly what needs to be done. Now, I've given some clear instructions on some of my previous videos, but I don't know what happens. People just cannot hear, they cannot listen, they cannot watch the whole video. So what I'm going to do from now, if you're watching this video and I'm not at 5,000 subscribers, all you have to do is comment on any video. So if you're watching right now and I have not reached 5,000 subscribers, from this video on forward until we reach 5,000 subscribers, all you have to do is leave a comment. I don't care what the comment is. The reason why I'm doing it that way is because I gave clear instructions previous, and I don't even know, maybe only like 5% of people know what exactly to do. So all you have to do right now is just comment on this video or any video moving forward before we reach 5,000 subscribers, and your entry will be submitted to win $200. That's what I'm going to go ahead and do. You know, I was really thinking on what I could give away, on what kind of prize I could give, and I feel like money is the overall, you know, best thing that I can do. So, you know, even if you have nothing to comment, let me know if you won the $200, what would you do with it? You know, are you going to flip a pack and make it back? Or are you going to buy some parts for your cars? Are you going to help your family out? Whatever it may be, you know, just let me know what you guys plan to do with the money if you were planning to receive it. But if not, just drop a comment down below and you're going to be entered in to win the $200. But alright guys, that is going to be it for this video for dropping the transmission. Like I said, hopefully you gained some knowledge from this, and as well, hopefully you guys are excited about the 5,000 subscriber giveaway prize. But that is going to be it for this video. Let me know what you guys think down below in the comment section. All my social media is down below in the description box. Go ahead and of course subscribe to the channel if you are not subscribed. Hit that bell notification and leave me a thumbs up or a thumbs down. You guys know me, I ain't tripping about that. But alright guys, I'm gonna have to catch you on the next video, alright?